Greetings and welcome to this virtual Sunday service of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Waynesboro for March 29th, 2020. I'm Tom Engel, and as lay service leader, I would of course normally be standing at the pulpit in the fellowship hall, reading script A, B, or C. Instead, I'm sitting in my living room at home and ad-libbing. I know we all appreciate Reverend Paul's effort to bring us together in this virtual format at this time when we cannot hold in-person services. The experience of Sunday morning may be different, but I believe the core purpose stays the same: connecting with a spiritual community devoted to growing love in this world. And now I'd like to read Words of Welcome for a Difficult Morning by Reverend Erica Hewitt, the UUA's Minister of Worship Arts and a UU parish minister in Maine. Whether you're here because worshiping with us is part of your routine, or whether you feel like our country has been stopped in its tracks and it's impossible to return to normalcy, on this morning we gather to proclaim that we belong to one another and that others belong to us. Broken hearts are welcome here. Anxious spirits are welcome here. Minds whirring faster than a racing engine, uncertain what to think. Stubborn egos that sometimes trip us up, cementing us to opinions. Fragile, shell-shocked souls. Say it with me. They are welcome here. Yours, mine, and everyone else's. Not because this community will fix it through easy solutions or the quote-unquote right way forward. As a liberal religious congregation, we have something far more fragile and far more powerful than that. Our need to be together, our need to reconnect to the life-giving source that moves within and among us, and our need to make one another a little bit braver and wiser before returning to the service of life.
Our community knows no boundaries. We are not confined by the physical limits of walls, or for that matter, of what binds us, restricts us, or holds us back. We are freer than we know when we release ourselves and each other from expectations of what is needed for true community, truly needed. We are here together in space. We can see each other and hear each other and love each other despite the physical separation and the absence from physical sight, physical sound around the room. We love each other, and I light this chalice as a beacon of this community, holding us all together here and now.
Hi, I'm Sarah Scar, the DRE at UUFW. And today the book I'm reading for you is called My School is Closed Today, and it's written by Meredith Polsky. Every morning I wake up, have breakfast, and I start to get ready for school. I love school. I get to play with my friends and teachers, sing songs, and have snack. I want to go to school today, but it's closed. It's not snowing and it's not time for a vacation. But my grown-ups say we need to stay home. My teachers want to go to school too. They like when I give them hugs and they hold my hand. They love seeing me at school. We all want to go to school, so why is school closed? The grown-ups say we have to stay home because people are getting sick. But I'm not sick, and my teachers aren't sick either. One time last year I felt sick and I had to stay home from school for 2 days. All my friends got to play at school and I was so sad. I'm not sick now. My friends are not sick. We are staying home, though, to help people stay healthy. This doesn't usually happen. The grown-ups are being extra careful. I wish I could go to school today, but I will help us stay healthy and play at home. I can sing the songs I sing at school. My grown-ups at home like when I give them hugs too. I can hold their hand and we can read books and have snacks together. When school opens again, I will be so happy to see my teachers and friends. I will tell them about all the things I did when I was home.
Our words of prayer this morning are by Elizabeth Stevens. These are strange times. There are so many things that feel unfamiliar. We are still figuring out how to protect ourselves and one another. We are still figuring out social distancing, perhaps mastering some aspects of it and learning others. We are still figuring out virtual community, how to be together when we are apart. We are still figuring out how to weave a safety net secure enough so that no one slips through. Some of us may not know how to manage strange new technologies. Some of us may not know where we can find toilet paper. Some of us may not know where our next meal or our rent is coming from. None of us know if we will get sick or how sick we will get if we do get sick. None of us know who we might lose. But we know the things that are important. We know how to manage our anxiety. We know that we are resilient as individuals and collectively. We know how to come back to our best selves again and again. We know how to breathe in the quiet of our homes. We know how to be kind. We know how to be generous. We know that we can count on one another. We know that when all of us offer what feels right, what feels good, we always, always wind up with what we need. We know that this pandemic won't last forever. We know that the world is a beautiful place and that we are meant to rejoice and be glad in every day we are given. Above all, we know that we are held in a love whose tensile strength is limitless. It will stretch, it will give, but it will not let us go. May we trust in that love in these strange times and in all times. We come together today, as every Sunday, with joys and sorrows in our community. The joys and sorrows that you have sent in to me this week are the following. Michelle Mead sends heartfelt thoughts to all at UUFW from the other side of Afton Mountain and adds, my friends and neighbors here are checking up on me and filling me with such joy and gratitude. I never imagined I'd be the little old lady that people checked up on. George Thompson shares a joy and two sorrows. He writes, Cynthia and I are well and have been hunkered down and working at home since March 10th. Daughter Haley, 3-year-old grandson Coleman, and Haley's wonderful partner Davis are also well. And he continues with his sorrow. Personally, COVID-19 did enter our world last night as we learned that our goddaughter Emily, a landscape architect in Boston, is ill with the virus and now quarantined with her partner, Paul, hanging in there, but fatigued and weak. And today we learned that Shannon Hummel, one of Cynthia's star alums, who is like a member of our family, got the virus 12 days ago. And 13-year-old son Henry came down with it 2 days ago, so they are quarantined in Brooklyn. So blessings to them and all who are afflicted by the virus and those grieving the loss of loved ones. Mary Cunningham writes, my beloved sister was tested positive for COVID-19. She lives in suburban Atlanta. She is that original family member I have always been the closest to and shared all of the secrets with. She has been an example of love and caring to me in my life. I know not all positives are a fatal call, but still my heart would break for her. Marybeth Nolde writes, we have had a little shock this week. Our youngest grandson, Miles, became sick this week with a fever and a cough. He was checked for flu, which was negative, so in an abundance of caution, the doctor did a COVID-19 test, but results will not be back until sometime between Friday and next Tuesday. He is 4 years old, and while he is probably has another virus, the waiting is really difficult for all of us. The family is in strict self-isolation at home until they know the results. Please think of us at this time. Let us hold all of this and everything that was not sent in, everything that remains quietly in our individual hearts together in a quiet time.
Hi, I'm Debbie, and I have the reading this morning. It's titled, A Letter in Return by the Reverend Lynn Unger, and it's dated March 18th, 2020. And how do you live, and what are your fears during this crisis? What questions to surface after midnight from across the world? In your country, is it the time of day to wrestle all the existential and daily dreads until, like Jacob and the vicious angel, they conceded to bless us? I am afraid that people I love will die. I am afraid that my child is inheriting a world so much harsher than what she deserves. I am afraid that desperate times call for desperate measures, and I am not quite desperate enough. Should I go on? I'm afraid that people have wandered away from the very idea of truth. I'm afraid that we have unlearned how to speak and how to listen. I'm afraid the fabric that holds us together is woven more loosely than I thought, and people keep slipping through. And how do you live? With grief, with fear, with laughter, with boredom, with glee, with contentment, with fury, with hope, with a firm conviction that no thing cancels any other thing out. Death does not cancel life. Grief does not cancel joy. Fear does not cancel conviction, nor any of those statements in reverse. Imagine your heart a bowl that is large enough to hold it all. Imagine you are the potter. Stretch the clay, cherish the turning wheel, and accept that the bowl is never going to be done.
Within the past few days, I've talked on the phone with close family members, as I'm sure many of you have as well. I talked with Keith, Walter's son, got a very strange perspective from the heartland. Keith is a truck driver, and though his politics tend to be on the more liberal side, he nonetheless is part of trucker culture, which includes a healthy distrust of anything to do with the government, a little bit of conspiracy theories, and other general approaches that maybe are slightly different than I would have towards what's going on in society. Keith told me that he believed this was all a hoax, that he was out on the road, he was in amongst other people all over the country, and he didn't see anything going on that suggested to him that we were in any danger at all. And so he continues without taking any precautions. And I tried to convince him otherwise, but you know how it is with conversations with people you care deeply for. They have their position and you have yours, and all you can do is listen to each other. He listened to me, and I listened to him, but I worry. And then I talked with my older brother, David. He's the brother who is far more intelligent than I am, who is also well versed in everything to do with politics and the way things operate in this country. And he's able to put it in context that I'm only able to imagine doing. And at a certain point in our conversation, having agreed over absolutely everything up to that point, he said that he hopes things reopen soon because he can't imagine living in a society which has a decimated economy. And I thought, that's not quite how I see it, David. I see that if we don't keep things closed down until we're well over that hump, death rates will increase, our losses and pains will increase. And do we want to live in a land of death and loss? Even if it's a land which has a healthier economy? All of these conversations are going on around us all the time. People who want things shut down longer and harder, people who want the government to take stronger action, people who want the government to back off, people who want us to get on with life, and a president who says He wants the churches open by Easter. The conversations can be part of the hardest thing that we have to deal with in all of this, because we've made up our minds what we need to do, how we need to follow the guidelines, how we need to be safe. And so we follow those to the very best of our ability, even though sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes we have to make choices between working and being safe. Sometimes we're told we have to work or lose our jobs, and then other times we know that that's not a choice because of our personal health issues. We all have so many choices that we're struggling with. This is a very real time of confusion as well as resolve. I read the other day about a kindergarten teacher who wrote a book for her students, a very simple book. You've heard Sarah read it today in this service. The teacher took a very simple thing, a closure of a school, a physical brick and mortar school, and she talked directly to the children in her class about the things that they might be worried about and reassured them. And this is the kind of thing that she does every time an issue comes up in the classroom. She writes a book for her children. Now, she's not an artist and she doesn't hire an artist, and so the artwork in the book is clip art, that simple drawing system that is functional, but not something that's intended to be an artwork for all time. The same thing that you might use in a newsletter then gets used in this book of hers. It's not a work of art, but it's a work of love that she created and offered to her class and to their families. An offer of reassurance, an offer of hope, while being straightforward in terms that children of the age of her class are able to process and understand without worrying in ways that are not helpful to them. I read an article in the Washington Post this week by food editor Emily Heil. And it was a very unusual piece. We know all about supermarkets and all kinds of shops not having toilet paper, not having disinfecting wipes, not having sanitizing hand gel, not having all kinds of things that we would want them to have, or being temporarily out of stock in ways that, because of the limits on movement and getting around, are particularly problematic. She was writing about the shortage that has happened in grocery stores around the country, the shortage of flour and yeast. She begins her piece on this way. Last week, while she was stocking up at the grocery store in anticipation of her family hunkering down because of the novel coronavirus, Zoe York grabbed the only bread she could find. It was a sad, pale loaf. It was like the $1 sandwich bread, said the Ontario-based romance writer, not the heartier, artisanal kind she and her family prefer. So she impulse bought some flour and yeast in the baking aisle, though she'd never actually made bread before. Since then, she has made 5 loaves with varying success and said it has given her a comfort that no amount of ordering food online can offer. I like that it's something I can do for my family that's not just hitting click and then sitting around worrying, she said. The article went on to describe how many supermarkets now have a shortage of flour and yeast because so many people who don't bake often have time on their hands, or worries to push back, or children to keep busy with an interesting, productive activity. It's a very interesting article in the Washington Post. Perhaps you will look it up. Baking bread as a spiritual practice. Cleaning the house as a spiritual practice. What is the difference between baking as an avoidance behavior and baking as a spiritual practice, something that grounds you? The difference is intentionality. Avoidance behavior can be a reflex. It can be something spurred by a worry, a concern, and we just push it back by doing something. But when you do that very same thing with intentionality of setting aside the thing that at this moment you cannot solve, and doing something that occupies that space and provides worth and meaning to you, that very thing that was an avoidance behavior becomes a spiritual practice. What is the spirit with which you engage in an activity? In the last newsletter, Florence put in a link to the poem Pandemic by Lynn Unger. Lynn Unger is Jewish, and she is a Unitarian Universalist minister. And though you've probably seen it, maybe read it through multiple times, I want to read this poem to you today because it offers something of spirituality, of spiritual practice in this time of pandemic. The poem goes like this. What if you thought of it as the Jews consider the Sabbath, the most sacred of times? Cease from travel, cease from buying and selling. Give up just for now on trying to make the world different than it is. Sing, pray. Touch only those to whom you have committed your life. Center down. And when your body has become still, reach out with your heart. Know that we are connected in ways that are terrifying and beautiful. You could hardly deny it now. Know that our lives are in one another's hands. Surely that has become clear. Do not reach out your hands. Reach out your heart. Reach out your words. Reach out all the tendrils of compassion that move invisibly where we cannot touch. Promise this world your love, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, so long as we all shall live. Amen, and blessed be. I have just a couple of announcements. I mentioned before that we have on our website the possibility of giving using a credit card. As always, anything that is sent through the mail, whether from you personally writing a check and sending it, or from your bank coming through the mail to the fellowship, that will be deposited and taken care of as it always is. But if This is a time when your reality allows you to give a little something more, something that you might have given in the offering basket if you were present in the fellowship hall, or maybe a special gift because you know that you're able at a time when maybe someone else is not. There is the possibility of giving by credit card. If you go to our webpage, uufw.org, then up at the top of the page, there's a menu line that has the word give. Click that, and there you can find a block in which you can safely give by credit card. Anything you give will be gratefully appreciated. And giving for the good of people in the community in need, again, I offer the Community Foundation of the Central Blue Ridge, which you can find at cfcbr.org, cfcbr.org. And on their website, there are multiple opportunities to give in a way that works for you. Again this week, I offer these words of benediction, which are based on an ancient blessing. May the soul of your soul bless you that you may walk in safety through the earth. May the heart of your heart shine within you that you may bring what is good into the world that needs it, even when you have to do so virtually rather than in person. And may the life of your life be radiant with acts of loving kindness, sharing the resources you have in a time of need, and sharing your spirit and caring with those who are down and hurting. Amen, and blessed be.